women were just like, I had no idea there were this many women out there having the same sorts of challenges or successes. We represent 33%, but it's, we're very small in percentage on a community level. Super exciting time, and I can't wait to see what the sector looks like in the next 3 to 5 years, because I just think women are really taking charge of their narratives and taking bigger risk and getting more confident and comfortable in their skin, and they're not concerned anymore about, oh, well, this used to be a male-dominated industry. I really like to see that camaraderie amongst us, and just the encouragement that we're giving each other is super cool.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Velker, sitting here virtually in what we normally do our in-person studios, and we remodeled it a little bit. According to Matthew, or because of Matthew, he said, hey, we need to get some stuff on the walls because it was really, really bland. So now we got these cool floating shelves over me, and there's a picture over here, and it looks a little bit prettier. But anyway, we're sitting here with Matthew virtually, and we have a special guest, Meaghan, and I don't even ask her how to pronounce her last name. I'm going to try it. Ready? Here we go. Ziemba. Am I right?
You're close. It's Ziemba, yeah. So I tell people to think of Lion King, Simba, and just add a Z. But Polish, if you're Polish, they would pronounce it Ziemba because it comes from Ziembaski. So
there we go. Yeah. I always have to tell
people.
But
you didn't do the typical Ziemba, which I hate. It makes me quiver. I don't like it.
I feel like now I need to say it that way. Ziemba. I will say school taught us to sound everything out. Okay, so it's fair. It's a fair mistake. Everybody pronounces my last name Volker, and it's actually Velker. But if it was German, it's Voiker. So,
Wait. Okay.
Hey, Matt, you want to talk?
Well, I was getting ready to say. So I have a couple of marketers and storytellers with me on the podcast today. So I think I can just sit here and listen in. I may not have to do any talking, but it's all good. I love it. So you guys are both, that's the common thread, is you guys are both in marketing and storytelling, and I'm in the fabrication business, which is a common thread between all three of us too. So
Matthew, don't act like you don't care about marketing and branding.
No,
what was just yesterday in our meeting, you said we're working on what your branding for Nick's Industrial and what you want people to think about. So
I think a lot about marketing. You know that, Casey. That's why I invested in half of a video marketing company.
That's true.
But,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show, Meaghan. So great to have you on, and just looking forward for our audience to learn a little bit about you and some of the really cool work that you're doing in our space. So tell us a little bit about your background and your story. So kind of set the stage for the audience.
Yeah, so professionally, I am an industrial tech writer or storyteller, manufacturing storyteller, and I started out in the trade publication industry in 2008. So I wrote for a magazine called Product Design and Development. Unfortunately, that's no longer around, but the people who used to run that magazine are now part of IEN, I believe, which is Industrial Equipment News, is what that acronym stands for. If you're familiar with David Manti, he's just hilarious. I love his sarcasm and the energy that he brings to this space. And they have a podcast. And then there's Anna Wells and Jeff Ranke, who co-host with David for that podcast. But they talk about industrial equipment news. So pretty nerdy, pretty funny content. They're just a blast to hang out with, and I haven't seen them in a while, but they're located in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm right on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. Some people make fun of my accent, which I don't think I have, but I've been told I've had one. From there, I tried to get out of manufacturing and I went into marketing for a liberal arts college, and I was completely bored out of my mind. And it got to be a little bit political, which I try to stay away from because that can cause a lot of disagreements and arguments. And I would like to believe I'm not confrontational. My mom would probably disagree with that statement, but got back into engineering and manufacturing, worked for a couple companies. I worked for a bearing company, a additive manufacturing manufacturer company, did everything from brand storytelling to organizing their trade shows, which was a lot of fun. Very stressful part of manufacturing is organizing trade shows, but it was a lot of fun, and made a lot of good friends with the unions that worked in the buildings that the trade shows were held. So did a couple shows pregnant too, which was interesting. And then from there, I ended up getting married and having 2 more kids. And I basically asked my former husband, I was like, hey, do you care if I start my own business? Because I wanted to be present more with my kids. And he said, yeah, go for it. Well, then COVID hit and he lost his job. And so I went back to manufacturing right as COVID hit and worked for a photochemical etching company in Chicago as a marketing manager. And around the same time, everybody was flocking towards social media just to kind of keep their sanity. And I noticed there were conversations happening within our sector, but it was a lot of guys talking. And I was like, hey, there's women in this space. Can you kind of reach out to them and talk to them about what they're doing? And they're like, yeah, we'll invite them on. And they never did. So I said, screw it. I'll just start my own thing. So I developed Mavens of Manufacturing, and it was a concept I tried to pitch to a nonprofit organization I used to volunteer for, and they turned it down because they said it was sort of discriminatory because I didn't want to pull in any of the guys. I just wanted to talk to women in the space. So I made an announcement, I think in November or December of 2020, asking for anybody interested in sharing their stories. And I actually booked out shows before having anything set up for April of the following year. So it was pretty cool to see the interest among women. And it's been going ever since. I'm over 200 episodes now. I do it live every Friday from 11:30 to 12:30 Central Time. And I talk to anyone from the shop floor all the way up to the C-suite. I've talked to students and apprentice people. I've talked to marketing and sales women. It's a wide variety of women that are involved in this space, and it's been pretty cool. I have 2 younger girls who have the hashtag junior board of directors that listen any chance that they can with their dad. And I'm actually super excited because May is Automate, and they're actually going to be at Automate with their dad. So I'm super excited to go to that show and meet them in person. One individual who just recently said I was her mentor, and I didn't realize I was Nush Ahmed. And if you're not following her, she is amazing.
Yeah.
She is amazing. So I just hung out with her at Assembly South, and she's just doing amazing things. And I'm hoping to have her on an actual episode. I did interview her at Assembly South, but I'm hoping to have her on an actual episode of Mavens.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, she's got a lot of great energy and is doing a lot to make some noise. In
and
her
she's
space.
only 22.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm blown away that she's that. Yeah, she's my daughter's age. So I was just it's crazy. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. It's kind of funny because Mavens kind of took over my identity a little bit. A lot of people didn't know I was an industrial tech writer. They thought I was just some influencer coming into the manufacturing space. And I'm like, I'm not a Kardashian. Please stop calling me an influencer. I was like, I'm actually a tech writer. So it's been interesting to see how Mavens has kind of taken over my identity, and people didn't realize I had a master's in professional and technical writing and actually knew what I was doing when it came to writing. So it's been a fun journey, and I'm super excited to see where it goes the next 4 years because I was not expecting it to last this long.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for doing that and what you're doing for our industry. We have several women on the shop floor now at our company, and obviously
So cool.
several in the office. We just had our first female project manager, which is not, as typical of a office female role, but we see a lot of opportunity there within our organization. And, quite frankly, we've all got to be doing everything we can to attract talent regardless of,
Right.
who they are. So we are really investing heavily in that in our organization, as far as being a place that attracts females to work, particularly on the manufacturing side of the business. But so it's great to see that people like you are doing your part to spread the word and attract women into our space.
It's been a lot of fun. I've been having a great time, and it's cool because, like, being a mom of a young woman myself who's, going to school for surgical nursing, the reason why she picked that is because of Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, that's a weird connection, but it got me thinking, like, okay, what sort of cool show can we create so that we can get younger generations that excited about pursuing engineering and manufacturing. And there's a lot of great people in our industry now that are who are coming up with really creative content. Tony Gunn is one, for instance, who he's everywhere and anywhere. It seems like I feel like he has access to a teleportation system that he's not sharing with the rest of us, but he's coming up with some really good ideas. Ian Stork, who's a videographer, just comes up with amazing imagery and storytelling videos. The Automation Ladies are another podcast that I listen to religiously, and yeah, it's just really cool to see all these people coming together and creating these storytelling pieces of content so that we can get the word out there about engineering and manufacturing. So it's an exciting time.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips. I want to give you 3 quick reasons why you should check out Mike Payne's podcast, By the Numbers. Mike, my good buddy, my partner on Making Chips, is full of wisdom. He's full of experience. He's full of what it takes to buy, sell, and lead a business, specifically a manufacturing business. So all the numbers that you should be focused on to improve your performance, that's what he's the master at. The second reason, Mike's the first person I call. If I'm looking at a new idea, a new partnership opportunity, a new acquisition, any new initiative where I need to dive into the numbers and figure out how to approach it, Mike is who I go to. And third, you got to love that buttery Tulsa King voice that Mike rocks. It just soothes your soul. It gives you the confidence to elevate your leadership. Jokes aside, if you love making chips, or if you're just passionate about improving your business performance and the financial performance of your company, check out By the Numbers by Making Chips, hosted by my good buddy, Mike Payne.
For me, like, I'm fairly new to the manufacturing industry, like, nationally. I've been helping with Nick's, and then there are business partners. We do tons of, I know Ian, and me and him actually met for the first time at FabTech last year. I ran into him when he was setting up some of his cameras. I was like, hey, we're filming a podcast later if you want to come say hi. And he's like, well, I'm really busy right now. And I'm like, I'm sure you are. And so, so I think that's awesome. But for me, I didn't realize how small, like, how small, like, we keep saying the world keeps getting smaller, but I didn't realize that, like, especially with LinkedIn and how everybody kind of connects. And then in person, when we meet at these conferences, these trade shows, you feel like you already know them.
Yeah, I think the pandemic was good in that aspect, where it allowed us to actually expand our reach. And I know it was a huge benefit for women in the industry, because there was a group that I used to be a part of, and it just grew so quickly that we couldn't really hold the capacity anymore for the DMs on LinkedIn, because it was just every few seconds we were getting another notification, and it was really distracting, but not in a bad way, in a good way. And women were just like, I had no idea there were this many women out there having the same sorts of challenges or successes as I was having, because when you are that spread out from each other, we represent 33%, but it's, we're very small in percentage on a community level. So it was really cool to just connect with other women who are business owners or content creators or coming up and new. And I think that's why I admire Nish so much, because she started out on LinkedIn just asking questions and then connecting with people. And, when she gets advice from people in the sector, she actually goes out and does what people suggest to her, and she's just grown so quickly, and she's got such a passion, and I really want to keep nurturing that for her, because I know some women who have left the sector completely because they just didn't have a great experience, and I don't want that to happen to her or anybody else. Like, I want people to keep having good experiences. So it's really cool to see these up and coming women who are so passionate, and the sisterhood of trades that she created that's focusing on women in the trades. Like, they've all been on TikTok because that's their platform, TikTok or Instagram, and she's encouraging them, like, no, come to LinkedIn. There's a whole nother group of people here that are going to support you and, you know, elevate your reach. And it's just really cool to see her take charge of that. So super exciting time, and I can't wait to see what the sector looks like in the next 3 to 5 years, because I just think women are really taking charge of their narratives and taking bigger risk and getting more confident and comfortable in their skin, and they're not concerned anymore about, oh, well, this used to be a male dominated industry, so that's going to hold me back. Like, they are willing to, like, push themselves forward, and it's refreshing to see, because when I first started in this industry, women were highly competitive with each other because we assume that, oh, since there's only one chair, we got to compete for it instead of pulling up another chair, just making the table larger. So I really like to see that camaraderie amongst us, and just the encouragement that we're giving each other is super cool.
That last bit that you said, instead of competing for one chair and pulling up another chair, surprisingly, I've never really heard of that really as much, other than, you know, people saying, like, just with your competitors and stuff like that, trying to say, you know, yeah, you can be competitive with people, but if you can bring up the whole industry as a whole, it's kind of similar, right? But hopefully Mason's listening, and he will put that as one of the little short clips, because I liked that soundbite.
That was a great soundbite. Yeah, I have some questions that I want to ask, just for you know, maybe some advice that we could help any manufacturing business leaders or owners here, whether they're male or female. But before we dive into that, you said something that I want to make sure I bring up before I forget. You were talking about great content creators out there in the space right now. Casey and his team did a really kick-ass video a while back. They actually did it for us, but it was we were trying to attract more women to work in our shop floor. And so, as the creative content people they said, well, what if we had some young ladies, like, I mean, they were like middle school age. What if we had them come in and, like, stage them, and then have the women that work in our business, like, showing them what we do, which we do tours from time to time, and we do that kind of thing. So we just staged something that we would normally do. And so we had these young ladies, like, doing different aspects of the work, and then these, you know, older, middle-aged ladies, whatever, or young ladies that are full-time employees of us, mentoring and showing them what to do. And that thing got a lot of traction, that video. I mean, I teared up watching the video. It was so freaking cool. We need to put that video on the show notes as well.
Yeah, I actually just watched it yesterday, and I have to give Mason, again, producer, he's our main editor, a shout out, because we filmed that, and I liked it. And what we did was we mic'd up the individual women. We followed 3 women. We did interviews with them, but instead of, like, doing it like normal where we have, like, a camera, I basically just mic'd up and interviewed them, and then just asked them how they got into the industry and things like that. And she got some really awesome emotional sound bites. Like, one of the ladies said her mom worked, I think, at, like, a coal mine, or, like, as security, her mom and dad, or something like that. And basically, she didn't know at the time, but it was basically showing her she could do anything a man could do. And she said that in the soundbite, and it was awesome. But then we mic'd them up when they were giving these tours to these young ladies, and
yeah, that was the best part. That changed the whole video. You call it hot mic moments, where it was just like more like behind the scenes. That changed.
I have to see this video. I'm getting all goosebumped hearing about it.
Well, so for me, it was was a proud moment for me, because, like, when I got done, I was like, I really don't know where it's going to go, because we kind of had this idea, but we weren't really sure. Like, and a lot of times that's how I create content, is I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a little bit. And I actually went off on vacation, and all of a sudden Mason sends me the first draft, and I'm like, whoa, this is really good. And then we added in, like Matthew said, the hot mic moments, and it just completely changed the whole thing. Just, anyway, shout out to you, Mason. I know he may or may not be listening, but that is one of my favorite videos. And one of the coolest things is, I would also say it's not one of our highest quality videos either. Like, it was just something that had
It's kind
really
of
good
raw,
content.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
content's
think
king,
that's
yeah.
a takeaway for people too, and it really goes in the questions I'm going to ask Meaghan. But sometimes we create content before we even know how we're going to use it. Like great content is great content. I think sometimes we're more creative and we come up with better stuff when we're not trying to fit it into a certain box of like, here's exactly how we're going to use it. And we've created content before and sat on it for months or a year before we were figured out like, oh, that's
which we don't always like as creatives, but whatever. Because I would argue the other way too. Like sometimes I always tell people, like I came from TV commercial background, and you would have to fit a story in 30 seconds or 15 seconds. And yeah, you have that box, but sometimes that having the limitations can actually make you think creatively too. But then also, like Matthew said, like most of the work we do, especially here in the manufacturing industries, is we have a vague goal. And you can have this goal of like, we know what the goal for the business or the organization or whoever we're working with, their goal is to do this, attract more talent or get more sales or whatever it is. So let's go out and what makes you guys different? Well, it's our people. It's the way we talk. It's the way our passion comes through and stuff like that. All right, let's go capture some stuff. And let's see if there's just a natural. It's the same thing with like a podcast. Like we have questions that we want to ask you, but we have no idea where these episodes are going to go until we start talking, right? And I think that's for me as a content creator. I'm not a content creator as in like influencer content creator. I'm literally just like a content creator. And for me, that's I think the fun part of it is like I don't know. A little side note, you said Ziemba like Simba. We just went to Disney and I bought those little Meta glasses. And I filmed the whole trip with just the Meta glasses versus like I'm used to having my camera and stuff. And it was actually really fun. Like being able to film while my 6-year-old got to ride his first big boy roller coaster and stuff. And those in between, I didn't even think much about it. But I'm like, how's this going to turn into a video? I actually got Matthew. He was coming off the airplane that we were getting ready to get on. And I go, hey, I'm recording. He goes, oh, are those glasses? I go, yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, I digress. They tell me I digress too much. So I got to stop talking.
I love it.
So along the lines, Meaghan, tell us how brand storytelling, that's even in your LinkedIn profile, and I love that you describe yourself as a professional storyteller. So how could a manufacturing leader or owner, how can they change how their company's perceived, or how can they bolster their company through storytelling? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think the issue with a lot of professionals, right? Because there's this stigma and stereotype around what professionalism is, and I get so tired of it. It's boring. It's lame to me, and I'm always rooting for the underdogs because they're really raw and they're authentic and they're genuine because they have. It's kind of like. My analogy that I give is, professional football versus college football. I think college football is so much more more fun to watch because those kids they're passionate. They're fighting for their chance to make it to the big league. So it's just this raw emotion. So I think you have to throw perfectionism out the door. And as Casey was talking about, with the Meta glasses, I think that video was more meaningful to you because it was more candid. It wasn't scripted. It was just naturally happening as your day was progressing. And I think that's where we tend to miss the mark sometimes. Like, it's not just focusing on the technology and the machines. You want to focus on the people because when it comes down to it, when you really think about it, you could be selling the same stuff that your competitors are selling down the street, but what's really going to connect people with your brand is that trust that they have with you and your people. So how are you building that trust? And you have to have those raw moments and those authentic moments for people to really look at you and want to work with you. And you're not going to be the cup of tea for everybody. That's why people have their preferences, because they relate to whatever their core values are. They relate that to other things that have the same core values. So a few of the brands that I love are Harley Davidson. I like CrossFit brands or any strong women brands, just because that's how I am. I'm kind of edgy. I like to lift weights. I love motorcycles. I like the outdoors. So those are the type of brands that I gravitate towards. I really like the underdog. So I'm really attracted to startup companies because I feel like they are really fighting through every single struggle so that they can be seen and recognized alongside the corporate brands that kind of do the similar things. So I just like that fight and grit that some of those companies have. So ditch the perfectionism. Just start recording. Everybody has a cell phone, and I think you mentioned before, Matthew, like the raw footage that doesn't have the quality. I think a lot of people assume, well, if it's not high quality enough, then nobody's going to watch it. And if you actually pay attention on LinkedIn, some of the lowest quality content is getting the highest reach and views and impressions because it's that raw footage. It's showing the authenticity of these brands, and people like that stuff. If you look at Mavens of Manufacturing, I'm not a high quality studio. I don't have a lot of the technology. I'm using my webcam and I'm using StreamYard, and I have this backdrop, which isn't the fanciest, but it is attracting people because it's the stories that are clicking with people, and that's what matters. So should you have some of that high quality content? Sure, absolutely. I think everybody should have that portfolio where you're showing your shiniest thing. But for people who are looking for brands to trust, it's that genuineness, that authenticity that they're looking for so that they can connect with it on the soul level is what I say. So I don't think you need to, if you're starting out and you're wondering where to start, I think the simplest thing is just to turn on your iPhone and walk around your shop and talk to, one of your machine operators or somebody in shipping or somebody in the office and just say, hey, what do you like about your job here? What's the coolest project that you're most excited about? What's one thing that you messed up on today? Because again, showing your mistakes too and how you made that mistake, but then how you overcame the mistake. That's really interesting content because it's showing that you're human. And with this younger generation, especially, they don't like the BS. They want you to be transparent and honest and truthful. And right now, the way that things are going in our society, people are grasping onto that authenticity and being able to trust your brand. So I feel like don't worry about perfectionism. And I like how Casey was like, sometimes we just film things and we don't know where we're going to use it. Try to capture and document as much as you can. And if you don't use it right away, that's fine, but maybe keep it in the back of your mind so if something does come up, you can bring it to light and use it when it's appropriate.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips, and I gotta tell you about our new show, Lights Out. When someone talks about being lights out, what comes to mind? For me, it's Michael Jordan, he's got the ball, the game's on the line, or it's Leo Messi taking that ball up to take a penalty in a penalty shootout. These guys are elite, and they're unstoppable, and you just know they're not going to miss. But I also think about the technology, automation, process, and most importantly, the mindset of the manufacturing leaders with the best shops in the world. Every episode will equip and inspire you to run lights out so you can sleep soundly while your shop never stops. Because we all know, if you're not making chips, you're not making money. So check out the new Lights Out podcast by Making Chips. I will see you there.
Somebody that does that really great is the Brunt. It's a footwear work boot brand. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but you talked about the startup and the underdog, and that's you think about work boots, that is a massive space. So to think that you're going to go in and disrupt a work boot space as a startup, you got to have some serious audacity to do that. And their marketing is all like grassroots and very just raw, authentic. And the founder of the company is always like, he's like the personal brand ambassador. And he's sharing they built their first factory and warehouse. Like he's sharing that stuff. You feel like you're like, man, I want to buy a pair of these boots because I'm rooting for this guy. Like, holy crap, he's taken on the multi-billion-dollar boot industry, and so that's an example of people doing it in our space and doing it well.
I say,
well, I'm bringing it. Go ahead, Casey.
I was just going to say, you said rooting for that guy, and there is that law of reciprocality where whether it's rooting for them or them bringing value, you feel like you want to do business with them because they aligned with, like I always say, Simon Sinek, you were talking about, it's okay if you're not everybody's cup of tea. And that's actually a really good thing to know who you want to work with, to know who, and in today's world with work-life balance and like how much stress people have at work and stuff, knowing the companies that you want to say yes to, and knowing that if you are just your authentic self, you're going to attract those companies. That doesn't mean that you can't aspire for other, like I know there's companies I want to work with that I'm like, the only way I'm going to do it is if I show that we want to do this kind of work. And maybe I'll end up doing that work and then realize that's not really what we want to do. It's not our fit, but I think it's all about, yeah, like you said, being authentic and knowing kind of your why and stuff like that. So,
but I think another important point with that too is if someone isn't a fit for you and you know someone else that could be, share that information, make those connections, because again, that's another way that people are going to trust you, and referrals are still a thing. Like I get a lot of referrals from people because they know who I am, they know what I'm about, and they trust my brand. And it's just very humbling to know that even when I'm not in the room, people are talking great about me. So if you're not the fit for someone and you know another company that is, and it might be one of your competitors, extend that olive branch and make that connection, because later down the line, that same customer might be like, even though they weren't a fit for me, they might be a fit for this person that I know, and then they'll refer your business to that person. So it's this really good karma cycle that I believe in. So just keep those connections going, and rooting for brands. I don't know if you guys are football fans or not. Like I'm really not, but I do enjoy watching the Buffalo Bills because of the Bills Mafia that they have, and it's all of their fans, and they're hardcore loyal. And one of the videos that they showed like last year or 2 years ago, the Bills got snowed in because they get a ridiculous amount of snow every year. The fans actually went to their houses and shoveled them out so that they could make a game. And I'm just like, this is why I like the Bills, and I will root for them all the time because their fans are just like hardcore. And they showed another video where like it was the Chiefs coming in to play a game in Buffalo, and one of the TSA people or airport personnel who like was welcoming them in actually was like, we just want to sit here and welcome all of the Chief fans who are arriving at the airport. And she ended up playing these two Buffalo Bills songs that get played all the time that they're playing over the loudspeaker at the airport as the Chiefs fan were coming in. It was hilarious. And I like that, personality, like just be real. And, even if people aren't buying from you, they'll still be a fan of you, and then they'll refer you to other people that might benefit you or get you business. So I like that strategy a lot.
Yeah. That's good. Very good advice. Great story too. I was not aware of that. I'm like you. I'm a college football fan, not a big NFL fan, but I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, you mentioned that obviously they have a good fan base, and I will say, I think manufacturers can get behind this. And again, what you were just saying, Matthew, about Brunt workwear is like the same thing. Is like the goal is you get your customers or your audience to become an advocate for your brand, and then eventually turn them into fans. If you can get them to be a fan of your brand, and not related really to, but still on the sports talk, I always talk about the Savannah Bananas, and that's like their core value. Their main core value is fan first, right? They're like every home game you get, I don't know, I know for sure it's like you get like a hot dog, a drink, and something else with your ticket, like you get food right with it or whatever. But obviously they travel the country, and the whole point was, yeah, he kind of was like, yeah, we're going to disrupt what people think about baseball, but really it was like, we're going to make sure the fans are the first priority of what we're doing. And I think businesses as a whole can think about that. Like, I'm not saying like bend over backwards for your customers, but try to turn them into fans.
Yeah, you really need to have a mind shift to B2C mentality, because I think B2C marketing does a better job of getting fans and getting loyalty, especially with the whole influencer type marketing. So you really have to switch your mindset, because are some of these products exciting? No. But can you make them exciting? Absolutely. Like there's a company gosh, it's slipping my mind and she's going to get so mad at me. But her name is Kristen. She's the owner of, I'm going to have to look it up. But her company made the components that went into the cameras that caught the Boston bomber. Not really exciting components, but really cool technology. Really important thing that they did, because without that, they wouldn't have captured the guy. And I just thought that was a really interesting story. So if you can, connect the dots of what products your components are going into and how they're, one second, I didn't turn off my phone and I'm really bad. Sorry about that. It's going to come through my computer. Okay. If you can connect the dots and, show the purpose that your products and services are fulfilling, that's another thing that's going to really attract the younger generation, because they're purpose driven. They want to know how they're making a difference in the world, and they want to know the value of that. And when employees are connected to that purpose, they're actually more productive, and you actually make more money with happier employees. So just think about, okay, how are we changing the world and what value are we providing the world? And then showcase some of that within your marketing materials and tell the story. One of the things that I love creating are case studies and customer testimonials, because it's just solid proof, how you're making people happy and making a difference in their life. So I think there's a way to change it from generally how they're written is like, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the process we went through, and then these are the results. But if you could turn it into more of like a blog post or even a video piece of content and connect the two, it's more relatable and people follow what they relate to.
Yeah. I think you said two really important things there. So I want to touch on both going from B to C or from the B to B mentality to the B to C. That's really big. And then what was the other thing? I'll think of it in a minute. You said something else that was really great there. But on the B to B versus B to C, I actually talk about that a lot recently with our team. Oh, I know the other one was the work. We use a hashtag work that matters. You were talking about connecting meaning. So we've really instituted that hashtag internally to try to get our team members to, put that with their posts. And we of course use it on social media, but we've got big wall art that says, hashtag work that matters, and trying to find jobs that we do that it's not hard to find in manufacturing, but really connecting the dots for folks. But back to the B2C thing, I said, we work for large corporations. We work for, heavy industry and all this stuff. But I said, at the end of the day, it's a person that wrote that purchase order, made the decision to do business with us. And I actually, I had a personal post I did on LinkedIn that got a lot of traction. When I ride with our sales reps, I would always post like where I'm at for the day. I just like to show like the cool things that we do. And instead one day, instead of just saying, hey, we're at a power plant, or hey, we're at a automotive manufacturing, I made up names of the story. Or I don't know if I used names, but I basically told the real story. Like, this guy has 3 little kids, and one of his kids is sick right now. He was up all night last night with his kids, and all he's, he just wants to get this part of the factory to run right, so that he can get home at 3:30 for his kid's baseball game. And, I just told this whole story, and like, that's what we did. We made a part that helped him make cars, but we helped this guy who was up all night get his job done that he needed to get done, so that he could make his boss happy, so he could leave at 3:30 and go to his kid's game. And when you really connect it like that, it's like, that's why people do business with you. Not because the car went down the assembly line. So anyways, I think that's great, Meaghan. I think our business leaders need to really think about that. I would challenge everybody to think about your customer and then really try to figure out, all right, how do we market to the person, not to the company? Like, what do they care about as a person? Because at the end of the day, whether you're doing business with Boeing or, think of, Toyota, for example, any of these big guys, it's still a person. So really, I think that's a good takeaway that you shared.
Because people, they don't remember product specs. They really don't. Like, they remember vibes and feelings and good emotions. And, if they're frustrated about something, and somebody can relieve that frustration, they're going to remember that. Then they're going to start talking about you. And like Casey said, they're going to turn into a fan and root for you all the way.
Yeah. Another saying we use a lot is we say their perception is their reality. So, you know, you have to remember that the customer's perception is their reality.
Yep. So I'm going to be the time police and say we're getting close on our time. We try to keep these around under 45 minutes, basically. A couple of reasons. One is we've had technical difficulties if we go over like an hour. And so me and Mason have decided we're not going to let that happen anymore. And so, but also we know that, like, I know some people want to have, if they have like a 30 or 40-minute drive, they just want to be able to get through an episode. And so that's why we do that. So I'm being the time police right now. With that being said, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think, again, our primary audience is fabrication leaders, people that are trying to take their business to the next level, or just learn techniques and things that can help them streamline their business a little bit, whether it's from the marketing side, like we're talking about today, or even operation side. But is there anything that any knowledge nuggets you want to give them before we start wrapping up?
I think don't overthink your marketing strategy is a really good thing. Again, just, look for cool shots. If you do have a budget where you can hire someone, again, I'm going to have to call out Ian Stork. There's a couple other film crews, but he has done so many shots with metal fabrication, capturing the sparks and everything. I just really like his style of photography. So I would definitely do your research on who's creating content, who connects with your vibe, who connects with your personality and core value, and see if you can invest in, the ways that they're creating content. Because again, it's all about the energy, and you want people to have an emotional connection to what you're doing, and you want to be able to connect it to the people, as Matthew said. And in terms of the younger generation who are up and coming in this industry, my advice to them is don't be afraid to ask questions. Be that voice, step forward. Don't think that you don't belong, because you sure as heck do. And a lot of the younger generation that I've already met are highly, highly intelligent and capable. And this whole myth about, none of them want to work. No, they do want to work, but they want to work with the right people that make them feel good and connect them to a purpose. So, again, ask yourself, what sort of purpose are we fulfilling in the world, and try to connect it with that younger generation so that you can attract them and also retain them to your business. And for the younger generation, just keep asking questions, step forward, get on LinkedIn, comment, share posts, get connected. Because again, Nush is a great example of that drive. And she already is at a quality inspection role in aerospace, and she's loving it. Like, she's doing amazing things. And I think when she first started out on LinkedIn, she was at a different company, and she's been able to find new opportunities really quickly because of her connections on LinkedIn. So don't think that there isn't a space out here for you. And if you need help, reach out to me, and I'd love to help you find whatever your next role is within the sector.
Yeah. How can people connect with you, Meaghan?
The easiest way is on LinkedIn. All of my contact information's on there. And then if you want to see some of the women I've interviewed, please go to Mavens of Manufacturing YouTube page. Some of my most favorite guests have actually been Rosie the Riveters. And there's one that's actually still around. Her name is Clarice, I believe. And I think she's 103 years old right now. Yeah, she's awesome. She's still doing things and presenting for the Rosie the Riveter Association. She's awesome. So go on there and check out those stories, because it's just really cool history.
Yeah,
for us.
Thanks for sharing those stories too. We Evansville is the city that's near us on the Ohio River, and our claim to fame is we had the largest manufacturing production in World War II per capita of anywhere in the country. We built the LST landing crafts here and airplanes here, and there's so many of those awesome stories of the women that contributed to that effort back then. We've got a cool museum dedicated to all that here, but that is super cool, and not enough the younger generation knows about that. So that's really cool that you're sharing those stories as well. Well, thank you for joining us, Meaghan. So any last thoughts, Casey, or shall we sign off?
I don't have any thoughts. I try not to think ever.
Well, Meaghan, we sign off by saying if you're not making sparks,
Then you're not making money?
that's right. You got it.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Meaghan.
you.
Thank you.